Hello and welcome to another one of my self-care series. We're now into week 6. I'm doing normally five sessions a week, and this is then number 26 for all those who have already calculated that. We're going to talk about time management. We had a little giggle about it earlier on, me and my partner Artie, because I'm actually an hour later than usual. But there was a good reason for it, and I'm not stressed about it. That's very important. But the best thing you can actually do for another person is to give them your time. And we've always talked about it, time is something you can give material things to people, and you can replace those material things usually. But when you give your time, that time will never come back. So it's very valuable. It should be very valuable to each and every one of us. And also it should include taking care of ourselves. See, it's all the little things. I mean, who would have thought 5 weeks ago that I was going to do number 26 today? But we don't need to do all 25 or all 26 things every day, but we can take small steps every day to make sure that we take care of ourselves, because it's so important. And some of you might say, what has got time management to do with all of this self-care then? Well, one of the most common complaints associated with feeling stress is that there is just not enough time. So there we have it already. And I think the last one I did, the previous one was about reducing stress, because it's an absolute killer. So if you put time management in the frame, then there's another maybe subsection even. But so we keep talking about time management and how we must get better at managing our time. However, there really is no such thing. Time management simply does not exist, because time carries on regardless, and it is something that when it's past, when we've spent the time, it's actually gone forever. Not to return, not ever to return. As I said, goods we can replace, but time we can never. That's why it's so precious, and that's why it is so valuable. And you look at people, successful people, how they treat their time, very different than the unsuccessful people. Now, I'm not being disrespectful, but many people, they will not manage themselves properly. But it's also one of the reasons why it is so very valuable and often only realized when people are on the deathbed. And that's when you get if only. And strangely enough, what follows is never that they wish they'd spent more time at the office. They talk about words that never cross their lips, often effort for loved ones, moments missed due to work pressures, often brought upon by themselves, maybe to please their boss, or the inability to say no. We've talked about that as well. They mention places they wanted to visit, hobbies they wanted to pursue, experience missed out on, as there was never enough time. I mean, you could ask yourself there, how come some people can do all these things and still have time to spare? They manage themselves. See, what we really mean is that we must manage ourselves and our lives better, so we can make better use of the time allocated to us. And starting today, of course, as we also know that tomorrow is an interesting concept all by itself. See, when I said time allocated to us, we will never know whether we have tomorrow. That's why it is another strange concept that we always worry about. We worry about tomorrow, we worry about yesterday, and we never actually do something today. That's why today matters. You matter and today matters. You put them together and it says make the best out of the time you've got. I've talked about mindfulness, which talks about that every moment we've got, we should be more mindful of, whether we're eating, whether we're walking through the forest and all that kind of stuff. But its time is so precious. See, bear in mind that successful people have the same 24 hours as we have. They are just more focused and disciplined in the way they use those hours, minutes, and even seconds. So, is one big reason you're not taking care of yourself because you never seem to have any time? Is it just possible that it's simply not a priority for you? See, you can splutter and argue differently, but then I would love to see your diary for you to point out where you have intentionally scheduled time for yourself. Here is something. If somebody would give you $1 million to make space for yourself every single day for the rest of your life, would you be able to find that time? I bet you would. I would. But I bet you would. But I schedule time in. Every day I make time for myself. I exercise a bit. We've talked about this. We even eat more healthy even since I started this, because my partner Arthur is listening into this as well, and we eat healthier. We are more mindful of a lot of things. We set things aside, but it is only because we're actually getting engaged in this self-care, and it's so important for each and every one of us. It's not just for the select few; it's for all of us. I mean, we can all do things, and it does, because it doesn't have to involve money. It can, of course, but it doesn't have to involve money. It doesn't have to involve anything but the time you take to actually look after yourself, the time to realize that you are important to you first and foremost, but you're important to so many more people than you realize around you. So I am already sure that when I asked the $1 million question, that most of you would have said a resounding yes, of course. So what does that tell you, though? That money is more important than your health? Do you even realize that healthcare is a very costly business? Does that tell you that you just don't value your health enough? Or that you can now see that your health is important and it is more about prioritizing time? I keep talking about it. And as I briefly mentioned at the start, time pressures put a lot of stress on our mind, our body and spirit. And as I already talked about in our last session, stress is a major killer. Some people got advice to keep smoking or start smoking again because it would be less harmful than the stress they're under now. See, some people, they actually smoked as a way of stress relieving. And they stopped smoking, and now they can't relieve the stress, and the stress is worse. And I don't get me wrong, I stopped smoking many years ago. I don't advocate starting smoking again. But doctors have said this, come out with this, that for some people, that the smoking was not as harmful as the stress they're under without that relief. But we can find other ways to find relief and to release those stresses, like the old me time, have 5 minutes of breathing. All those kind of things are there. But the question then is, what can we do to take better care of the time we have? I'm going to give you 4 tips to assist you with your time management. I'll use it, but I mean, you know that it's not time management, it's managing ourselves with the time we've got. Creating to-do list and prioritizing is a great way to start, because keeping a to-do list helps you get organized, which is essential in balancing your demands and minimizing your stress. When creating a to-do list, make sure you capture all of the tasks you have to complete. So another aspect of keeping a to-do list is prioritizing your work. By prioritizing your work, you plan the order in which you'll do things, so you can tell what needs your immediate attention and what you can quietly forget about until much later if you need to do it at all. Keep in mind that a to-do list varies from person to person, like self-care does. A to-do list can be a daily or a weekly list, but you choose the one that suits you best. But preparing a to-do list is a 3-step process. Start by writing down the tasks. Review jobs and allocate priorities. And rewrite the list in priority order, because it's also very important. Make sure you do the most important things first. If you don't get to the other things, remember the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, is do 20% gives you more returns than the other 80%, and it's on and on, but it's fascinating if you ever look into that. But make sure, if you have a list of 10 things to do, that the top 2 are the ones you need to prioritize. There's a little book called Eat That Frog, and it actually talks into that if you have 2 frogs to kiss the ugly one first. But really what it says is, you need to prioritize the things that you really need to do even if you don't want to do them. Write that priority list. The second one is scheduling. Effective scheduling is one of the most important time management skills you can use. Scheduling is the process by which you plan to use your time in order to schedule efficiently. You need an effective scheduling system. And there are a variety of options to choose from, including a diary, a calendar, a planner, software such as MS Outlook. But keep in mind that self-care should be scheduled into your time. Schedule is then a 5-step process. Identify the time you have available. Block in the essential tasks that you must carry out. Again, it all comes together. Schedule a high priority urgent task and vital housekeeping activities. So, there is these 4 quarters, urgent, important, urgent and important, urgent, not important, not urgent, important, not urgent, not important. Now, the not urgent, not important should actually be at the bottom of your list somewhere, but the urgent and important should be the top, but you should really be in the 2nd quarter where important, not urgent. That's where you really want to live. So by the time you get into the urgent and important, you start getting into stress. Sometimes there is those kind of cases, but that's where you need to organize your stuff. Block an appropriate time to handle unpredictable situations, events and of circumstances. Sometimes these things happen and you need a schedule for them. You don't have to make sure, today these kind of things are going to happen, but when they happen, make sure there is some space for them. And in the time that remains, schedule the activities that address your priorities and personal goals. Your personal growth, your personal development, your self-care. The 3rd one is goal setting. Now, goal setting is a powerful process for personal planning that can ease the stress. The process of setting goals helps you figure out what you want to achieve. By knowing what you want to achieve, you know where you must concentrate your effort. We've all heard of SMART goals. And it's very simple. They need to be small, measurable, attainable, realistic, relevant and time-bound goals. You can Google this kind of stuff, but SMART goals, when you really get into them, the personal SMART goals, but you need to set goals that are small and attainable and realistic. Because the big goals, of course, you need to have big goals as well, but within that you need to have daily goals, weekly goals, maybe even hourly goals, depending how you work. And then one of them is end procrastination. It's not a case of, I will stop procrastinating tomorrow. That doesn't work. There is no time for procrastination because time flies by so quickly, so don't wait until the evening before a deadline to start your assignments, for example. You must try to minimize or end your procrastination way early. You must plan. That's why you must plan ahead. So to overcome procrastination, you must first recognize that you're doing it. Then figure out why, and lastly, get over it. See, recognize that you're procrastinating. And that is, if you're honest with yourself, you'll be able to know when you're procrastinating. Below are some common warning signs, what I'm going to talk about. Filling your day with low priority tasks from your to-do list. Immediately going to get coffee or check emails when you have to do something important. Leaving an item on your to-do list for a long time, even though you know it's important. The urgent and important and the important but not urgent. Saying yes to an important task just to get away from the ones you need to do. Figure out why you're procrastinating. And if you're putting off tasks because you don't want to do it, you need to find ways to motivate yourself. Now, these are 4 areas that you can help yourself, but I hope this was useful in helping you to manage yourself better with the time you have, and therefore alleviate the stress levels many have due to bad management for whatever reason. Reflect on where you are and start to implement this also important area today. Because this is so very easy to combine this with so many other things. But if you have to-do list, if you become more effective, you'll get more time for me time. You get more time to take a few minutes out here and there of your busy schedule, because you have more time available when you become more effective in managing the time you've got. Start managing those kind of things today, And if it's evening already, start thinking about what you need to do tomorrow, whether you do it in the evening or first thing in the morning. Start writing those lists of the things you need to do and the ones that are most important. And if you don't get to them all, if other ones need to move up the importance list the day after tomorrow, or if you can wipe them out altogether because they were never important in the first place, they were just a nice to have, do so. And if they were just a nice to have, balance that out with either the nice to have things. Could I replace them with some exercise, with some me time, some other kind of stuff that will really be helpful in your self-care? It's always the small things that matter, but they matter when you start doing them today. I will see you tomorrow. Take care.